Engagement, although we've talked a lot about metaldehyde, our engagement program is far broader than that. We work with as many partners as possible, as many people that can influence of this whole picture at the moment. The most important one is the one on the right with the agricultural team, the Anglian Water's catchment advisor team, the faces on the ground that come and talk to you, that explain the context within your local region. I've been to too many presentations where data gets put up on a slide and says, this is a picture for the east of England or for southern England or for the whole of the UK, with no context of actually what's going on in my local area. What's the impact of my activities on drinking water? And that's a really important reason why we have a catchment management team. The catchment management team are also all basis trained, whether it be facts, whether it be basis crop protection, because I think it's really important that we're able to talk to you on a technical basis. We're able to talk with agronomists. We're able to talk with the various ag chem suppliers at a level that you're going to, because we very much believe that any of the solutions need to weigh up both environmentally, but also need to weigh up economically. And if we're asking for a change, we need to understand the implications of what any of those changes are. So we try and make sure that the team is as well equipped on a technical basis as possible. We don't have all the answers, but I think it's really important that we work with people who are asking the questions. We're curious, we want to be part of the solution. When I normally present this slide, the picture with the man in the hole there is the most important one internally. He's Peter Simpson, he's Anglian Water CEO. He really gets catchment management, and he's been a huge advocate of it, and he pushes it internally, remembering Anglian Water is a water business, it's an engineering company, and actually a non-engineered solution where we're going outside of the gates, we're relying on somebody else as a solution. It's quite a difficult position to be in. So to have the endorsement of senior management in the program that we're doing is really important. Some of the things that we've tied up with, we've linked up with the likes of BASF to promote the Easy Connect system to try and avoid and try to reduce the amount of leakage and losses in that process of transferring concentrated pesticides into the sprayers. We've endorsed and supported things like the water stewardship tool, the When to Go tool that BASF pulled together. The When to Go app was developed by BASF, and we thought it was a really important and useful tool to help decide on application timings for metazoclor and quinmarac. It's local, it takes into account your local soil type, drainage and cultivation method to calculate the drainage rates on your soil. And by pairing this information with past and future weather, it estimates soil wetness and capacity, and depending on the result, will make an application of when to apply the product. So a really good tool to help make an informed decision on when to go and apply products. Anglian Water, we are definitely not against using products, but we would like products to be used and stay on the field where it's doing an economic benefit from you. I very much believe that if it stays in the field, it's exactly where we want. The moment it washes off the field, it's an important input that's cost you a huge amount of money, but it also costs us money to remove it. So there's a natural business benefit in keeping the products on the field, which is why tools like this are really useful for it. Other things that we think are important is soil health. Looking after the soils means it's more resilient for the future. It gives us more quality of water. It keeps the crops growing that much better. So there's a huge amount to be tied in there. Another bit of work that we've done is establish a network of weather stations. So we've linked up with Agri to put up a network of 18 weather stations scattered across the region. And the key thing is they're in an agricultural environment. So we look at everything from the normal factors of temperature, rainfall, wind, and humidity, but we also have probes in the ground that are looking at ground temperature, water saturation, drain flow. All of these are ultimately connected onto Agri's Riser Connect app, which is a really good way of accessing both that historic data and predictions for the future. This is also linked to future weather to give an indication of when are the spray windows. Is it likely to be really windy in a day or two's time? Was it likely to be dry? To try and help timing when those spraying windows are. To get more information about where your local weather station is, please get hold of your catchment advisor and we can connect you into a login there. The logins are free. We're trying to encourage as much access to the data as possible. And if there's anything around this area that you feel we should be doing more of, please get hold of us. We have also invested in a range of different things, including drip trays. So if those are things that might be relevant, drip trays, spill kits, please get hold of your local advisor. The best way to find out who your local advisor is to go onto the Anglian Water website. There's an area on it called Catchment Management, and the contact details for your local advisor would be there. We have, in some situations, invested in facilities. Picture on the right was where we had a specific challenge around Winterton and we needed to do some direct investment. It's generally not the way we provide support because it's very targeted and often costs a huge amount of money for a relatively small benefit. But in this situation, there were specific challenges that meant that we were able to go to this level of investment. The important thing is we will look at it, we will consider it, but we do need to look at the needs of the wider community, the wider water quality challenges in that particular area. So I would encourage farmers to come and speak to us, but we aren't the only source of funding around. There are other initiatives, there are other organizations that are also provided. Pesticide amnesties are another initiative that we have launched in some areas. I think they are an important tool in what we do, but is very much focused on engagement in a particular area. We don't do them as a broad brush approach. We focus it in the catchment and try to mitigate specific risks there. Our pesticide amnesties are always anonymous and they're always open to whatever products are around. And we've run them for 3 years. We've had 93 farmers engage, over 5.5 tons of product removed. And the vast majority of them are very simple, very often half-used containers, but we do get some pesticides that start ringing alarm bells. Again, this is all anonymous, but it allows us to mitigate the risk that's out there. And the top 5 that we've pulled together, the top of the list there is DDT. One of those was from Northamptonshire, one of those was from Norfolk. So in different areas, we've picked up the product. We've got a large number of banned products that have come around. And our feeling is if we've had an opportunity to mitigate this risk in the catchment, that risk isn't sitting out there. So these sort of initiatives, we won't do always, but we will bring them in from time to time, depending on need. For information on when we are running pesticide amnesties, all the information is on our website, but please get hold of your local catchment advisor who'll be able to give you context on specific initiatives. And if you feel there's a particular need in a particular area, then let us know as well. We are welcome to look at it. However, we will look at it in terms of the context of where that catchment is. Do we have a problem in an area? Is it connected to a drinking water source? Those are the sorts of contexts that we need to look at. I think the credibility of a water industry is often not particularly high in having agricultural conversations, which is why tying in with partners across the industry is incredibly important. Although, as I said, we've tried to make sure our team is as highly skilled as we can. We've done the PACES courses. For us, we've found the best way is to work with people in the sector, find the innovative ideas, find a new way of looking at the problem rather than simply saying the only solution is to get rid of something. One of the ways we try and position ourselves is how can we support farmers to offset the risk of trying new technologies? Often we've found that a new technology might not necessarily be picked up because it could impact on yield. If we can come through and support something new to be tried, a new approach, a new variety, a new technique, and provide a level of insurance, a level of cover that will help that particular approach become mainstream in the next 2, 3, 4 years, then that's absolutely where we see a place for Anglian Water. And I would look and say things like cover crops, things like GPS and GIS and guidance on tractors. 20 years ago weren't things that we were even talking about. Now they're fairly mainstream. And while there's still a lot of work around precision farming, around cover crops, I also want to look and say, well, what are the things of the future that are coming forward that we're not even looking at the moment? And this ties into End Trade, who is an organization that do farm grant schemes. So they'll be working on some with us in the future and help us to deliver what we're doing more effectively and targeted to what the farming environment is looking for. And this is my final slide, and I think it's a really important one to look at. This was a word cloud. Once we spoke to a huge number of farmers about what they wanted us to do with them, how could we work with them, what were the key things when we talked about water that jumped up in their mind. These were the sorts of things that people talked about. And I think field trials are really important because it's a way to see where does something work, doesn't it work, understand the context of it, try things side by side. We did it right at the beginning with metaldehyde, doing split field trials with metaldehyde on half of it and ferric phosphate on the other half. But the challenges of the future, whether it be blackgrass and the propizamides and the ways of managing it for the future, whether it be the challenges we see around nitrates and phosphates and what opportunities might sit there, or it's flood and drought mitigation, or the more secondary priorities in our immediate world around carbon and biodiversity, net gain, and all of those sort of worlds. There's opportunities for us to work with farmers. And the thing I emphasize often internally is that in my mind, there's no such thing as a farmer. There are rich farmers and there are poor farmers. There are progressive farmers and there are conservative farmers. And the decisions that are made by an individual farmer has a context around where they've come through. Some of them can afford to take a huge amount of risks, others can't. And our position as Anglian Water needs to be to understand those differences and allow each farm business to progress in a different way. What we don't want to do and what we can't do is teach farmers how to farm. But what we can do is provide support to take some risks, to venture beyond maybe the practices over the last 10, 20 years. And this is where we've started looking at doing a grant scheme that we're trialing at the moment, and it'll be going mainstream further down the line, looking at saying, how can we promote farm innovation? Talking about, well, what are Anglian Water's problems? And what are the things that you can do to help us solve those? This isn't a grant scheme that is live across the board yet, but it's the thoughts process that we're having at the moment. What we want to do is to say, in a particular area, these are the challenges. What are the things that you can come through with, rather than a simple shopping list, a list of things that we as the water company have decided we want to fund. I think that takes away a huge amount of innovation. It takes away a huge amount of value of your learned experience, your perception of risk and your perception of opportunities. And I think is a good way to tie in. Naturally, as a business, we have different demands in different areas. So some areas, if you were farming upstream of any of our big river catchments or big river pumps above our reservoirs, then absolutely what you do, what washes off the field, goes into the water that we pump in for drinking water. If you're below our catchments, it's not necessarily a high priority for us, but it doesn't mean that we can't be doing demonstrations there that farmers upstream might be able to learn from. We've supported all sorts of initiatives from H2B monitor farms, and trials and farmer open days and those sort of things. So just because you're not in a drinking water catchment doesn't necessarily mean that we wouldn't be interested in having conversations with you. But we are looking for innovation. We are looking for different ideas and ways to influence your peers. We do focus on providing mutual benefits. So a grant funding to do concrete in 1 yard might be less preferable rather than looking at a range of different varieties or looking at something else that other farmers can learn from that and take away and apply. So we are looking at engagement. We are looking at communications and how we can share it. We are looking at solutions where they are tie into multiple challenges, and things like flood and drought and climate challenges are often the ones that drop down priorities. We remember them. The last 2 seasons have been bad autumns, so people are focused a lot of them. This last season wasn't quite so bad. I'm saying this in December, so it might have changed. Ultimately, we believe that farmers are the key part of the solution. We believe in what we say as local solutions for local challenges. The context of what works in your area is really important. And through these workshops and through working with organizations like Land Management 2.0, like the partners that I flagged on those previous slides, we think we can get somewhere closer to getting a resilient, vibrant agricultural sector, which delivers for your business needs, it delivers for the country's food security needs, as well as the water security needs. And ultimately, that's why Anglian Water is interested in running programs.